Hi, I'm Nate Breg. I'm a student at Carnegie Mellon, and my current work looks at the Hill-Burton program, which was a federal program that subsidized hospital construction and hospital expansion in the mid-20th century. So my work speaks to the question of what role does physical access to acute medical care play in overall health? Now, the Hill-Burton program was passed in 1946 by Congress out of a concern that there were an insufficient number of hospital beds in the United States throughout the country. Now, what the program did was, from 1948 to 1971, the program considered proposals by private groups to build new hospitals or expand existing hospitals, and projects that were deemed financially viable received federal matching funds. Now, subsidization occurred in a staggered fashion from 48 to 71, and I exploit this staggered nature to conduct an event study approach, or a dynamic difference in differences analysis of the effect of Hill-Burton on mortality. Now, I find that Hill-Burton did not impact mortality in the neediest group of counties. Now, by the neediest counties, I mean those that state governments designated to be the highest priority in need of having their applications reviewed for new hospital beds. And this was determined by how many people live there, how many beds there were, and whether the county was rural or not. So again, I find no impact of Hill-Burton on mortality in these neediest counties. But I do find an impact on the second neediest counties, the tier of the second highest priority counties. I find that 10 years after receiving the subsidy, mortality dropped in these counties by 0.5 deaths per thousand. Now, why do I see an effect in the second priority but not the first priority? Well, if you look at the descriptives, you can see that the highest priority counties probably were less developed than other counties. They had a lower share of their houses were electrified, they were more rural, and so on. So it could be that these second highest priority counties were in need of hospitals, but they weren't underdeveloped like the first group, which probably had so many problems going on that just expanding the bed count didn't have an effect. Now, to confirm that this finding is not being driven by unobservable county characteristics, I conduct an instrumental variables analysis. I use this county priority ranking as an instrument for whether the county received funds in the first 3 years. This instrument is relevant. It predicts whether counties receive funds in the first few years, and it's orthogonal to any other unobserved characteristics because, again, state governments made this priority designation only based on population, the number of beds, and the rural status. And through this IV analysis, I find that receiving $10,000 in subsidies resulted in a 0.5 decline in deaths per thousand. So overall, it seems that Hill-Burton did reduce mortality in counties that were in need, but not in the counties that were the neediest and probably were the most underdeveloped. Thank you for your interest, and I appreciate your feedback.